Hello everyone. So this is like my first video in cybersecurity, specifically pen testing. So we will be starting pen testing on SSH port number 22, and let's jump into it. So I have two machines here. One is the Ubuntu installed on a VMware workstation, and I have Kali installed on the same workstation, and I've connected both of them using the bridge network, so both are able to communicate with each other on my local network. So let's jump into it. So basically, after installing Ubuntu on my virtual VMware workstation, I've installed OpenSSH. So probably we can skip that part. It's just you can do that sudo let me log in as a root. So as you can see, apt install OpenSSH server. That's the only thing I've done. And so by default I believe it is not installed, and then you can also install NetTools. So these are also not installed by default. So these are basic thing. So let's start now. What else we can do from here? Okay. So right now this is like a command prompt on my Windows operating system, for those who don't know. So I've just done SSH and connected to my Ubuntu machine using SSH, right? So that's the only thing. So the very first thing we'll jump into Nmap. So let's do Nmap from Kali, and let's see what all open ports we see on Ubuntu. So Nmap -sv, and then we can simply give the IP address of my Ubuntu machine, which will be if config graphinet 33. Okay, 1.33. Now the Nmap scan says that we have TCP on port number 22, SSH, and here we can see Ubuntu Linux as the operating system. And once we discover this, we can then simply try to get the password of my Ubuntu operating system, and we can use the tool called Hydra -l user. Okay, so before using Hydra, so what we can do is we can just go to desktop, and we can create the hash or you can say a dictionary file for users and password, and in those text file we can mention the username and password of Ubuntu machine. So Hydra will scan and go through that file and figure out the correct username and password, and that's what we can do. So I'm actually following a document on the other screen. This is let me share this with you. So this document is from hacking articles, right? And this is the SSH pen testing port number 22 is the document. You can go through it, Google it, and you'll be able to find that document. So let's see. Okay, so I've already created this in my documents folder of my Kali. So let me show you this. So as you can see, I've just randomly entered some username and password, out of which one is the absolute correct one for my Ubuntu machine. Now let's use Hydra, and we'll run the scan using Hydra, and let's see if it is able to find that. -l, so you can always do man Hydra, so it will give you the manual page of Hydra, and you can check what does the option stands for. -l stands for the file, so we will be specifying the file like user.txt and password.txt, and capital P stands for the file, the password for the file, you know, the password which will be loaded from the file. Okay, and lowercase p is when you type the password in the clear text on the terminal itself, right, or on the prompt itself. So that's what I am guessing right now. So let's do. And then you have users. This file is already there in my documents under SSH pentest folder, and then we'll do p and then give the pass.text and then the IP address of my Ubuntu 1.33, and then SSH is the protocol, right? So let's scan this and let's see what do we see here. Okay, that is amazing. We already got the result here. On port number 22 we have this SSH protocol, and the username and password is already here. Okay, so now we can use this, and we can SSH into Ubuntu from Kali. Okay, so let's do SSH pentester ubu, that's the username, ubu01 at 192.161.33, and then the password. So yeah, we can just hit enter. It will ask you to enter the password here, and the password is pass at 123. So now we are logged in with the Ubuntu, and as you can see, I've also installed the ZSH shell. So that is why you see this kind of a prompt here. So it's kind of like autocomplete and all that, it will show me that. So this is like Kali. Otherwise in Ubuntu you will not get this kind of a prompt. You will get bin bash, yeah, by default. Anyways, so this is done. Now authentication using Metasploit. Okay, so now I'm gonna X out of that Ubuntu session, and now we will run Metasploit. Okay, so let's launch MSF console. Okay, all right, I was supposed to get some water actually. Let me pause the video here, and I'll be back. We'll get some water to drink and come back. All right, welcome back, and I see that MSF console has already launched. So let's see now. We need to search for the payload. Search payload SSH, and there are a lot of things. So we need SSH exec payload. So let's find that exact name. There we go. So we got the first one, 0. Yeah, so we can do like this, like use exploit, then multi SSH exec, right? And now we're gonna use this payload. Okay, now you type show options to see what all things we need to set up in order to execute the attack, right? So first thing what you do is you load the payload, right? The payload is set here, and then inside the payload we're gonna set the R host, like R host is the remote host, which is my Ubuntu machine here, and the port is already taken here as 22, and then we're gonna do username and the password what we have already got using the Hydra. Okay, so let's do set R host at 33, right? So show options, and then you can see that when we do that, this is how it is set here. Earlier it was not there, right? as you can see that it was blank. All right, let's do this, and then let's do set payload. Okay, we're gonna set the payload, like we have to take a reverse shell of this Ubuntu machine. So we're gonna add a payload here for the ref shell, right? It's already there basically, but we can do the reverse TCP, set the payload once again. x86 or x86. Okay, let's go x86. Metaprinter reverse TCP, right? So if you see this, now it is changed to this one, x86 metaprinter payload, right? So it has localhost as my Kali and local port as 44. So we will be getting a session on this one. Okay, and so set the username now. Set username as ubu01 and set password as pass123. Right, so as we can see that we have set up the username, the R host, and the password has been set. Right now we are ready to see the, attack this, but before that we can just simply check who is our target. Show targets, and the target is the Linux command, right? And we can do that by setting the target, like set target 0 and exploit. Okay, exploit failed, is not a compatible payload. Okay, so this seems to be not the correct payload. We can use the 64-bit one. Let's see. Or let's search for it. Search payload. Search payload reverse TCP. So let's see, reverse TCP, but we want it for Linux, right? Metaprinter Linux. Okay, let's do some more filters here. Payload Linux reverse TCP. So these are all Linux, and then we can also Armitage is also there, I believe. Yeah, but let's see for Metaprinter. Architecture 64-bit. Let's set this one. This is the first by default one we already had there. So let's use this one. Oh, we need different one. Wait, we need the TCP, TFTP, Armitage, reverse shell. Yeah, it's gonna be the huge list actually. If we do not filter the search, it's gonna be like a huge one. Okay, let's do this way. Search payload. Payload Linux, Linux metaprotor repository line. Yeah, we need the CMD one, right? So let's go with the CMD one. We need to get the command prompt of that machine, right? Payload Linux CMD HTTP. We were looking for TCP basically, but let's see. Or we can take this one. Metapredator was TCP. Yeah, let's take this one. Well, this is the default one. Set payload. Set payload. Okay, Metapredator reverse TCP. Show options. Okay, Linux x86 Metapredator. This one didn't work actually. So it should have worked, but let's see. Why it didn't work? Exploit failed. Linux x86 is not compatible payload. So which one? LS. Which one we can take then? Let's see. Okay, let's try setting it as x64 instead of x86. And let's see if that works. The value specified for the payload is not valid. Which value, man? Which value? Matter METE. Okay. So we have the R host, the port username, and then the payload is set here. Now let's try to exploit. Exploit failed. TCP is not compatible. Okay, so it worked for the first time, but now it didn't work actually. Okay, let's see. Or we can take the second one here. Show targets, right? Let's select the second one in the list, which is x64. We took the command, it was wrong, I believe. So set target as number 2, right? And then do the exploit. there you go. So we selected the wrong target, so it didn't work, right? So now even if I use x86, it should work, but we have to set the correct target here. So that was the mistake. All right, that's good. So that's how we do it. We just go back and revise the list and we understand. So now we are into a desktop directory, right? pwd is in the desktop, and now let's see. I'll create a file here. What is there in it? My bank details is already there. Touch, no hack, right? I'm creating a file here. Echo I am hack me, right? And we're gonna put this into that file. So if you see, it says no one can hack me, right? So here we're gonna go back and now change that file, right? So here you can also do shell and you'll get the shell, right? So this will be your shell, and we can go to desktop, right? So yeah, as you can see, home, desktop, right? Desktop, and then cat no hack, right? We can echo yes, you are hacked, right? We do this thing. Maybe it will add another line into that file, probably. No underscore hack, permission denied. Okay. Okay, only your root user can do it. So basically this file, I created this file using root, right? So probably that is why. But anyways, we can create another file. Touch yes, you are surprise.txt, and then we can do echo you are hacked, right? Cat, right? So now let's check in Ubuntu. Yeah, there you go. So you are hacked. Okay, so this is also done. Okay, now let's jump into another thing. Yeah, and yeah, one more thing we can do from this. Yeah, let's look into something else. I'll come out of the channel here, the Metapredator and the Metasploit and everything. Yeah, let's get back to the Kali. Okay, the next exercise, what we're gonna do is to run the command using SSH, the SSH tool itself. I'm sorry, the command itself, right? Without taking the SSH session, we can run the commands on the Ubuntu machine and get the details from there. Like for example, SSH ubu 01 at 192, right? So it's already there, and then we can do like if config. So we'll run that command and we'll get the IP address of the Ubuntu machine, right? See 1.33 and 1.33. So same way we can also read the desktop file which was there on his machine, right? Home ubu 01, and then we can do desktop, and then what was that? Surprise.txt. Sorry, there was a quote actually, which I forgot to mention. Yeah, but yeah, you can see you are hacked. So what I did is I just entered the quote later on like this, and you can read the file. You're not even taking the session of Ubuntu, but you're simply running the commands. Okay, now let's jump into another exercise. So by default, the So now you got to know that, okay, as a system admin, you know that, okay, port 22 is by default port for SSH. So probably it could be a vulnerable port, like mostly everyone knows that, okay, it's 22 for SSH and all that. So probably you thought that, okay, let's change the port, and this way nobody will come to know about it, right? So for that, we can go to the SSH config file, which should be under etc folder, etc folder, SSH, right? And the SSHD config file is the one. So cat or let's do nano SSD config file, and then we can change the port over here. Default port is 22, as you can see on the top here, and we can change it to another port and we can uncomment it. So these are all default settings, so it is hashed out. But if you are making any changes, then you need to comment it out, and that's what I'm guessing. I had this question earlier, but I didn't got a chance to ask Ubuntu or ChatGPT or something to know why. But anyways, let's do 2222, okay, and then we'll save the file, and let's close this off. We go back to nmap scan, and let's run the scan again, and now as you can see, it is still 22. We have to restart the service basically. Okay, just checking if they have mentioned that after saving the changes of file, the enumerating performed using Kali Linux now shows that the service is running on new port. Let's do system sudo, no, we are already in root system ctl restart SSH, right? So now we can see that it should be running on on port number 2222. Let's see, nmap, there you go. So it is now updated to port number 2222, right? Now also when performing the brute force using Hydra, the updated port needs to be given, hence the new command will be, okay, so when we run the Hydra, earlier we ran the command without giving a port number, specific port number, right? If you see our command here, we did not specify the port number there, right? So by default it picked up the SSH on port number 22, but now since we have changed the port, so we need to specify that. So hydra-l users.text-p pass.text 192 ssh-s for 2222, right? And then it will run on the target machine, and we should be able to get the username password, right? We already got it. Now next exercise, okay, in next exercise what we can do is we can use nmap, and there are many scripts in nmap. Using those scripts we can also brute force the password, okay? So let's try using that, but let's Google it for this, okay? Let's Google this. Let me bring up Google here, or let me bring up a new one. Right, nmap scripts list. So as you can see, nmap script list, right? So there are a lot of scripts within Nmap, and yeah, so one of the script what we can use is the SSH brute force. Is it there? SSH hyphen brute. Yeah, there it is. Performs brute force password guessing against SSH servers, right? So this is the script we can use, and they have given us the example nmap hyphen p port. Since we have a different port, script ssh brute, script argument users dot list, password dot list, root timeout 4 seconds, and target ip address, and then we should be able to get this. So let's do this from here, right? Let's copy this and let's type it in here and modify this a bit. Oh, okay. Nmap port number 222, script ssh brute, ssh argument user dot text. We have this userdb database file, users dot, what was that, users dot text. Okay, then password dot pass dot text, ssh brute force timeout, and the target ip address is 192.168.1.33, right? Let's do this. What happened? Error parsing list. Is it the correct list? Users. Okay, it's users dot text, and then it is pass dot text. Okay, now let's see. Okay, I believe we already got it, but how we will know which is the right one? Oh, is it gonna run for 4 seconds? Repeating the same thing. Okay, what is it? Yeah, we already got it. You see, valid credentials, ubuntu and pass 123, like ubu01 and pass 123. So that is how we can run the nmap script. Yeah, and we can also give the custom username password file by giving the script argument enumeration SSH authentication method. Okay, enumerating SSH authentication method. The SSH authentication method can be enumerated using SSH authentication script in nmap. Okay, we have already done this. And the key-based authentication. The above command enumerates that the authentication type uses SSH service in both public key and password-based authentication. What does that mean? nmap SSH brute force script from password.list. Okay, let me try this one. nmap hyphen script root hyphen p 2222. What does it do? Okay, it has its own okay, it's gonna guess using its own username password list, and it's gonna be the huge list. It might take hours to complete this way, so yeah, but let me cancel this. It's gonna take ages to go through that list and bring up the right username password. So yeah, better we supply our own database file and the password to just for the learning purpose, right? Now let's see if we can do this by supported authentication method, public key password. The SSH authentication method can be enumerated by using SSH auth methods, and script in nmap. The username can be given by using the script argument flag. The following command can be used to enumerate authentication method. Okay, so in order to understand what is the authentication method set in the Ubuntu SSH config file, we can use this nmap hyphen script ssh hyphen auth method. So this is one of the script. Actually, this is another script in SSH in nmap. So if you go here and if you go back, this one, so this script we can use to guess whether they the SSH on Ubuntu is using public key or it is using a password based authentication method. So let's try this authentication method hyphen script hyphen argument equals to ssh.user ubu01 hyphen p2222 and the target IP address. So you can do it in this way as well. Supported authentication method is public key and password. So so both are supported. What does that mean? I don't know, but yeah, let's read this. Returns authentication method that a SSH server supports. Okay, it just tells us that what authentication method it supports. It does not tells us whether which one is by default enabled. Probably both are enabled by default. We can check this into Ubuntu. ls cat sst config file, and probably both are enabled by default. Yeah, password authentication is yes. Public key authentication method, where it is. Port, we know that we have set it up. Permanent, yeah, okay, so by default both are enabled into this. Yeah, so that is why we got the response as public key and password. Okay, amazing. It also shows us the MAC address. It's pretty dangerous. Yeah, so yeah, and then let's look into the next exercise. The above command enumerates that the authentication type uses SSH service is both public and password based. Key based authentication. SSH key based authentication offers a secure, user friendly method for accessing a remote server without relying on password. This technique employ, I'm reading this on the document, the one which I already showed you on the hacking article. Cryptographic key, a private key stored on your local device and the public key saved on the remote server. The public and the private key pair can be generated using SSH keygen tool inside the Ubuntu machine. A passphrase is also set up for the ID_RC key, such that when the user will log in using key-based authentication, a passphrase will also be required. By default, the path to SSH folder. Okay, let's do the key-based authentication in SSH. This will be the next exercise. Okay, so let's edit nano SSD config file, and before editing that, we will generate the SSH key. Okay, so we should generate this into, I believe it will automatically by default save into the .ssh folder, the file in which to save the key. Okay, it automatically saves it into that folder, so no matter in which directory we are in, we should be able to do it. SSH-keygen, this is the tool we're gonna use, and this is the key generating tool. Once you install OpenSSH server, you get that tool by default along with it. So OpenSSH authentication key utility, yeah, and this will help you to generate the key. There are a lot of options in it. passphrase, email address, and whatnot. But we're not gonna go too much into details in that. We're simply gonna try two methods. One is without the passphrase and one is with the passphrase. So let's see. So let's do this. Sorry. SSH-key gen, enter. So here it says root ID RSA, so it's gonna go to my root. Instead of that, let's do normal user, right? Exit, and then we're gonna do SSH key gen from here, and then it will save under ubu SSH ID RSA. Okay. In my normal users home directory, there will be a .ssh directory, which is always a hidden directory in Unix and Linux operating system, and inside that it will create a key under this file RSA. Yeah, and we can simply hit enter to accept that directory. Passphrase, let's see if they are going to ask us enter the same passphrase. Next step is copy the, okay, we're gonna mention some passphrase here. Let's do 123 enter, 123 enter. Okay, now as you can see, you're gonna type this way. This is what it has created, the ID RSA and ID. This is the public key and this is the private key, right? So there will be a key, some key cryptographic combinations of a key right over here, and same way for the public key. I believe it's one liner, I guess. So basically get ID RSA underscore pop. Yeah, it's like this is the key for public. You can share this key with anyone, that's why it is named as public. Next step is copying the public key to authorize key. Okay, we need to rename this. Okay, the public key to an authorized key. Rename the file. So mv, or we can do cp command, or we can do cat command and just simply create new one like this. Or let's do this way, cp id underscore pop to right. So it has now created the file with the same data what it had in this file. Now next is what? Now we can disable the password based authentication. Okay, authorized key file on the remote server. Okay, now we need to copy this authorized key file. Contains a list of public key that are authorized to access the server. By copying the public key file to this file, we are telling the server to trust and connect that corresponding private key. Okay, so let's do that. I need to Google something here. Alright guys, sorry, I was just checking few things in the meantime, so I had to step out. I paused the video and I'm back now. We have to copy this authorized keys into the Kali SSH folder. Okay, so I'm into this directory home kali.ssh, and we need to copy this file over here. So there are multiple ways to copy it. Since we are into a terminal, so we will use the tool called SCP secure copy. So if you do man scp open SSH secure file copy. But yeah, in this method you should know the username password of your Kali, since we already know that, so we're gonna do that from Ubuntu. There are other methods also, but I need to still double check those. So scp command have fun, or the file name known host, and then the Kali username kali01@192.161.2, and then colon, and then the path. So I'll directly put .ssh right in the root directory, and then hit enter, and it should be able to copy the file over here, right? So here we got the wait a minute, not known host. It should copy the, okay, I made a mistake now. Okay, authorized keys. So it already has overwritten the known host file of my this thing. So anyways, that's okay. Fine, I can delete that known host file later on, but yeah, authorized key, we got it. Okay, now what is the next thing? So once we do that, now we can disable the password based authentication into the Ubuntu. So okay, so we go to etc folder, ssh folder, nano sst config file, and we can disable the password authentication method, and we're gonna use or force the public key authentication only, right? So this one we just have to rename it to no and uncomment it. Like I said, you know, if you change anything by default, you uncomment it, and then so you are explicitly mentioning the config file that okay, I've made the changes here. That's how we understand the default one is hashed and this thing is. But yeah, I believe if I hash it out over here, then by default it will be like ignored, but I'll try that later on, right? So that is saved, and after this again enumerating the service using the SSH. Okay, we need to put back the port number to default 22. Okay, let's do that, and we comment it out. By default it will pick it up 22, and then we know we got to restart the service. Sudo not systemcd. There are many ways. Like another way is it's init.d restart ssh or something like that. SSH restart. Okay, so that this has restarted the service, and then we can also do another method is also there, systemctl restart ssh, right? It already, sorry, it's the easiest one. It gave restarting SSH via, okay, it also does the SSH restart, okay, using the systemctl, same thing. Anyways, so let's see now, what does it say? Again enumerating. Okay, we're gonna run the nmap here. I'll log in as a root. Nmap hyphen we'll do the script thing. Yeah, the authentication script method. Yeah, So this will tell us which authentication method the SSH is now using. We're gonna find this out. Okay, earlier we got 2 methods, but now what does it say? Closed. Okay, we need to change the port. We are not using 222, we are using 22. So now we see the result. We see only one authentication method is used in SSH of Ubuntu, which is public key, and that is good. Let's assume as a scenario where we can somehow get a private key of a Ubuntu user, then we can directly log in using the key based authentication. However, we have to give the private key read and write privilege to the owner, but we should take precaution that we are not giving the key over permission. To give the appropriate permission, we will use the following command, and then ssh-i idr pen test. What does that mean? Let's assume a scenario where we can somehow get the private key of Ubuntu user. Okay, we got the private key as well of the Ubuntu user. Then we can directly log in using the key based authentication. However, we have to give the private key read and write privilege to the owner, but we should take precaution that we are not fine. I was a bit confused earlier as well when I read this particular step. I don't know why we somehow got the private key. What is the use of it and how do we use it? As we had already set up a passphrase earlier while generating the private and the public key using SSH keygen, we need to crack the passphrase. This is an okay. So what we are doing right now over here is that assume that you logged on to that device, and then you have access to his public, private and everything keys, and you copied those to your Kali machine. But the Ubuntu admin played something a smart trick. While creating the RSA key, he also mentioned a passphrase over here, so that no one can use the passphrase, the private key. So what we're gonna do here is we'll copy the the key, the private key over here, and we're gonna brute force that file to get the passphrase out of it. Okay, that is the exercise, I believe. So okay, it's 1:12 a.m. at night here in Pune. Grab some water. Okay. All right, let's assume that we got that private key. Okay, assume as in we'll have to copy that, right? And then we need to but why we are giving a permission? I don't understand that part. Since we are the attacker and we have that file, so we can give the full permission, like execute, read, write, whatever we want to do that. We already had a passphrase earlier while generating a private key. We need to crack the passphrase, then build to Kali. But why? Let's understand this. Owner, but we should take precaution that we are not giving the key over permission. To give appropriate permission, we will use the following. But why? Let's ask this question to ChatGPT, that why. Right, let me close this. Let me bring up the GPT guy here, new one, and let's do this. So explain me this, why we have to give some permission like read only, etc. to give appropriate permission. Okay, why we have to give a read and write permission? Since I am the attacker and I got the private key, so why should I bother about the permissions here? Note, I am doing all this yeah, otherwise, you know, they have some policies, you know, it doesn't reply properly, so we have to tell him that. Okay, so what it says, great question, and you're absolutely thinking like an attacker, which is what makes this an important concept to understand. Even in the control lab setting, you are in the VMware lab simulation attack, fine. User, you have somehow obtained the private key of the Ubuntu user on a remote system. Now you want to log on via SSH using the key-based authentication, right? So here's a key point. SSH is strict about file permissions of private keys. If you're using OpenSSH, the default on the most Linux distro, the SSH won't use a private key if it is too open. Okay. If the permissions are too relaxed. Why? Because SSH assumed that if other can read your private key, then it may be compromised. So it refused to use to a secure security precaution. So yeah, I think this paragraph needs to be updated in that document to explain why. Right, typical error you might see if you're trying to use a private key with a loose permission, SSH will throw an error. It is required that your private key files are not accessible by other. The private key will be ignored. Okay, the correct permission will be 600 IDRSA read write for the owner, you. Okay, no permission of the group or others. So that is why we have to use it. Understood. Fine, I'll make a note of that one and send it over to Raj sir, and they will update it on that. Hopefully they will update it, probably. So okay, bye sab. Now let's do that. Let's copy that file. Okay, where it was on my this folder. Oh, there it is gone. Oh, not in the root, on the normal user. Okay, I can do like this. Right, and then I can copy this file again, SCP, which file it is, IDR_RSA space. Let's see, what is the permission here? Okay, so it's only 600, like user and user, that's it, nothing more, nothing less, nothing high privilege or so. SCP hyphen, yeah, so this user won't work in my Kali, right? So I have to change it to Kali user, so that is why we're gonna do that as well. SCP hyphen not hyphen ID_RSA space Kali 01 at 1.2 and then colon, directly go to SSH folder, hit enter. Okay, we got that file and it has a Kali permission, but let's do that. Yeah, it already has a read write permission, it has already done it, but we still gonna check this out. mod, no, change mods, so id underscore RSA. Yep, it doesn't make any difference. Same thing, read write, read write. So that's okay, we are good with that one, right? Now we can use the private key to authenticate into the service. Okay. I believe I stands for specific file, right? I stands for, what is the option I does? Lowercase I. Yeah, identity file. Okay, so it's like a private key, so we're gonna explicitly mention in the command that it's an identity file, like a key file. Okay, -I id underscore RSA ubu 01 at 192.161.33. Enter. Okay, now we know that we already have set up a passphrase earlier while generating the private key using SSH. We need to crack the pass. We don't assume, like, you don't know, right? You the admin on the Ubuntu has set up this passphrase. You don't know. So this is the exercise. So we need to crack this password, and once we get this password, then we can get into the Linux box, right? So it's 1 to 3 actually, as you can see, but we're gonna find it out how, using some tool. Now there is a tool called SSH to John, right? And we're gonna use that. Okay. All right. Okay, I don't know, we'll find it out. SSH to John version, no. Okay. Okay, what does it say? Okay, so it tells us how to use it. That's it. Only one liner. Okay. Let's assume that we convert this into we convert this key into a hash file. Okay, and that is what we're gonna do with this. So SSH to John, and then the file, the id underscore RSA, and then we're gonna convert it into SSH hash, right? And then if you ls, you can see SSH hash, so it has created the hash out of that. Okay, pretty huge, right? And now we're gonna use another tool called John the Ripper. Yeah, John the Ripper. Find weak passwords of your users. Yeah, if you set up the weak passwords, like you welcome at 123, password at 123, admin, root, these are all weak passwords by default. Routers, the firmware pages and all that of the appliances and all that by default uses, like the camera firmwares and all that, uses the default weak password, and we can use this tool to crack those, right? So let's do this. Let's see, what does it say now? John hyphen word list. Okay, so it has a word list, like a database of the files, users. We're gonna specify the word list, right? Share and word list rocky.text.gc. Okay, I'm a bit confused with this one. Earlier as well, I had this text file, but it was gunzip, and I am assuming that John is able to read inside that unzip file itself, or else I'll have to extract the text file and then provide it as a plain text file. But let's see. And then the file where we have created the hash. So this hash, John will read this hash and try to decode and find out the password, the weak password out of it. Okay, but let's see if this works. Press Ctrl C, almost any other key for status. Okay, we're gonna just hit the status. I believe it's not working as expected. Let's ask this one. Do we have to, using John tool on Kali, do we have to extract the word list.txt.gz file? I'm gonna ask this into a new window because I want that the other part of that explanation to be here, so I'll copy it later on. Otherwise, it gets lost. Okay, what does it say? What happened? If you want to know the credit SSH exact. Okay, something messed up here. I lost that. Oh, there you go. Okay. Great question. When using John, the Ripper often invokes as John on Kali. No, John the Ripper cannot read the GZ compressed word file directly. It expects the word list to be in the plain text format. So we'll have to cancel this, and then we need to extract it because it may not understand that file. I read somewhere it may understand, but not sure why. So let's unzip it, and we'll see how does it work. Unzip, and the file is at this directory, right? User share word list and then Rocky. Yeah, let's unzip this. Oh, not here. ls user share word list. John, where is that John file? Where did it go? Rocky. Okay, it is now unzipped into a plain text. Now let's give it to this guy and let's see if John is able to do it. Yeah, it's 1 2 3, so probably it should not take much time to get the password. Otherwise, you leave it running for hours, days, I guess. Show something. Okay, I don't know how much time it's gonna take, but does this say anything? Format raw MD5 hash. After running that, you the voice can be directly used with John. Okay, and why it is mentioned as format raw? Does this make any difference? will run 8 OpenMP threads. Okay, it's running a bit faster as compared to the one which I see here, the crack. Yeah, they should mention here in the document as well that how much time it's gonna take. Otherwise I'll skip this particular step and then move on to another one. But you got an idea, right? That oh, you go okay. Here we go. We got that password for that RSA key. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go here. Okay, we're gonna go to that SSH, right? Enter, and then we're gonna put 1 2 3, and then we are logged in. Okay, so this exercise is now completed. Now let's move on to another exercise. Key-based authentication metasploit. The above procedure can also be performed using Metasploit framework. The auxiliary scan SSH login public key can be used to authenticate via key. The following option can be given. Okay, auxiliary scanner, but will it automatically? Okay, the scanner will give us the username and password, but how? Okay, we can use this for enumerating the key-based authentication and take a reverse shell, I believe. Yeah, let's try this if it works or not. Let's see. Let's launch Metasploit. Sorry, my bad. It's almost 1:30 a.m. so kind of sleepy. I feel like having a coffee, but if I have coffee then maybe I'm not gonna sleep. Yeah, it always takes a while to launch this, and let's see how much time it's gonna take here. Okay, Microsoft launches a free Python library that converts any document to Markdown, introducing. I would love to use this. We can get this later on. Okay, let's use search search what? Auxiliary or SSH login underscore pub key. Okay, there we go. We already got it. Now let's find it. Let's use this. Use 0. Will it use? Okay, that's great. And set the R host. What is that IP? Yeah. Where it is set. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I'm sleepy now. R host, and then set key path, the path where we have that key. It's in my. Actually, we need to copy that to another path. Probably. Will it work? Let me do that into a home directory here. CD. Okay, copy. Okay, or let's put it into root directory. Yeah, doesn't make a difference, right? And then we gonna set this as a path, and then set key underscore pass as 123, set username as boo01, and then exploit what it is gonna do. Okay, we got the session opened, and what we're gonna do here, we see user ID ubu01, user ID ubu01, user ID group is also ubu01, and what do we see here? 1 2 3. After running the auxiliary, the user is enumerated and also a shell session is open. The shell session can be upgraded to metaprinter sessions to get more options. Following are the commands to upgrade an existing shell to a metaprinter session. So we got a session here, scan SSH session 1 opened. It has already opened it. We're gonna now do this sessions, right? So we got one session there, sessions -u1, right? The one which we're gonna use it, it's S. Okay, and then upgrading it to the metaprinter session, executing, exploiting, reverse TCP handling. Okay, this is done, and now type in sessions, and there we go, we got it upgraded to metaprinter session. Now we're gonna use this metaprinter sessions, and then we're gonna see what to do now. Yeah, this is a pretty confusing document. Post exploitations using metasploit. After getting the metaprinter session to create persistence, that post exploit can be used to save the private key of the user in the attacker machine. The post exploit used here is the Linux manage SSH persistent, and the private key is stored at the root. Okay, sessions use, am I in the right path? We did sessions -u1, and then we got this metaprinter active sessions, right? And then we're gonna do another sessions use post. Okay, sessions, then we're gonna use post Linux manage SSH key persistence, set session white, say set sessions 1, set session, but here it is different, pen test it. Session 1. Okay, and then we need to do is exploit, checking SSH permission, authorize key file, finding SSH directory, storing the new private key as root.ms4 loot directory, and then once the private key is obtained, we can again log into SSH service using the key based authentication. Okay, it has stored the private key here in this directory, right? Adding the key, right? So, and then we can do is cd root.ms4 loot mv the file 20 whatever it is, Okay, I guess this thing doesn't work in this prompt, so I need to copy it. mv paste text where into a key. Okay, and then chmod 600 key. Like they said, you should not over permission it. So now we can use this key to log into the attacker machine. I key. Then we can use ubu 01 at 192.161.33, and that's it. It didn't even ask for the key actually. It should have asked for the key, right? So where is the key gone? Where is the key gone? Like the pass key for using the private key. Right, so something is not working here as expected, or it didn't work as expected. It should have asked us for the key, right? Once the private key is obtained, we can again log in into SSH service using the key-based authentication as discussed in the previous section. I understand that. And SSH-key, we gave that. And then we gave the proper this thing, and it automatically logs us in. It didn't even ask us for the password. There's another post exploit module which we can use to gather all the files inside the .ssh directory of the user who initiated shell access whose initial shell access has been taken. Use post exploit SSH credential. Okay, shall we try this? Okay, what it is gonna do is it's gonna download whoever there's another post exploit model which we can use to gather all the file inside the SSH directory of the users who initial shell access has been taken. So good. Okay, it's gonna copy all the files. I don't know what all files it's gonna copy. After the files has been obtained, loot folder, now process can be repeated. Let's do that. Let's go to the root, that folder, root.ms for loot. Right, so it has copied all the files, everything from that SSH folder of Linux. This one here, everything fine. And then what we can do is copy that, convert that IDRSF file into some other file. MB, yeah. Key 2. Right, ls key 2. You got key 2. Sorry, key 2. And then we're gonna do SSH hyphen I key 2 01 and not 33. Enter. Yeah, now you see it's asking for the key. This is what I was asking for. Okay, so this is done. Now still we have a lot of exercise to complete. Let's jump on to the next one. Another exercise is the port forwarding one, right? Local port forwarding password based authentication, right? So let's exit X out of this. Exit, quit, exit -y. Okay, let's come to local port forwarding. Let's assume a scenario where we have initial access and there is a web application running on the target machine internally at port 800. Directly we cannot access the web application in our browser, but though the local port forwarding supports the SSH, we can access the web application on our Kali machine. Local port forwarding forwards a port on a local machine to a port on a remote server through a SSH connection. It can be seen below that the application running internally on the Ubuntu machine is directly not accessible from our Kali machine. So from the initial shell, it can be seen that the web application running on it. So we need to run some web application on that. Which one shall I do that? Shall I do a Python based application? That will be easy. Or we can run the Apache one. Come to Ignite Technologies. Let's assume a scenario where we have an initial access and there is a web application running. So there is a web application running. So what we can do on Ubuntu is Apache, which there's no Apache, right? So apt install. So I'm installing the Apache web server on Ubuntu, and okay, something was not done correctly here. apt -get update -fix missing. So let's do this. Yeah, when we run this, you just have to pay attention to the last one. You know, when you see the error, usually it will tell us that why it failed and all that, right? So we just have to look for the clues in there. Temporary failure resolving in archive.ubuntu. So it is there were from unpatched or unsettled installation earlier. Fix missing, and maybe because of that, it is not able to install it properly. But let's see, we'll be able to fix it. If not, then we can use the Python web server. That should also work. Yeah, let's do that. Unable to correct the problems. You have some broken packages about installation. Okay, I know that. I'll try a couple of things, and then if not, then we'll move on to Python application. Let me pause over here. I'll take a quick break while this is done. Yeah, and then I'll come back. All right, guys, I'm back. एक सेकंड, दरवाज़ा बंद कर किया था. All right, I'm back. So मैंने अभी यहाँ पे एक ही दो चीज़ किया है. एक तो ये एरर आ रहा था हमको। तो सबसे पहले तो मैंने apt get अपडेट चलाया, फिर उसके बाद apt अपग्रेड चलाया, एंड apt अपग्रेड के बाद उसने मुझे बोला कि ये सब पैकेजेस अपग्रेड करना पड़ेगा, तो वो हो गया। पैकेजेस अपग्रेड होने के बाद मैंने चलाया apt इंस्टॉल अपाचे, राइट, और फिर वो अपाचे भी उसने इंस्टॉल कर दिया। एज यू कैन सी apt अपग्रेड, apt गेट अपडेट, अपग्रेड एंड देन अपाचे इंस्टॉल। ठीक है, ये 3 ही कमांड चला है। तो अभी अपने इसमें अपाचे का सर्विस देखना पड़ेगा, सिस्टम ctl। ऑलराइट, आई शुड स्पीक इन इंग्लिश एज वेल, अदरवाइज या system ctl apache or status apache 2. Yeah, it is active, up and running, so we should have a web server running on Apache. So if I do if config and pipe grep inet, so we can see that we have this IP address. We can use this in our browser to see the Apache. Since we are on a terminal, so we cannot go to the GUI of Ubuntu and do that, right? So I can, yeah, here it is. So this is on my Ubuntu, right? It's a web server, it's running, up and running, and we can see it, right? So now let's continue with the exercise. So assume, like, the scenario is that assume you have the web server running on Ubuntu, right? And if you do nmap -sv, you should see that Apache is also running on some port 8080, I believe. Right, yeah, there you go, 80 on port 80 by default, right? So that is good. And now so let's see, from the initial shell netstat, and okay, let's do netstat. From initial shell access, it can be seen that the web application is running internally on port 8080. From which shell? Okay, I came out of that metapreter already, so I cannot see that now. But assume that we ran the nmap and we know that it is running on 80. Okay, now we can do netstat netst80 -ntlp, and what does it says? Okay, I'm not in that session, so assume like we have that session of the Ubuntu machine, right? And so we do this command here. So assume like you hacked into it and you're now doing some investigation and you figured out that okay, there is a web application there, right? And it is listening on port 80. Where it is. NTLP. From the initial access, it can be seen that the web application is running internally at port 80. Okay, what should have been here somewhere in 127, not, but yeah, I cannot see. But if I launch it through localhost, it won't be. Let's try that. It is not listening, but yeah, we can change that into Apache SSH config file, cdtc http config file, http, or what is that, Apache 2 ls nano Apache 2 config file, and here we can make it listen to a specific IP and a port so that we can see it. So by default it should be running on localhost, this one. Basically it's on, it is showing us on IPv6 though, but Let's try to make it listen on 8080. Where it is 8080 htaccess file default. Am I in the right file? Sorry. Where it is? Yeah, that is correct. We are in the right file actually. If you see here, it says that config file is this one, and yeah, it just tells us that in. Fine, let's do that. It should be here somewhere. Keep alive, keep alive. Or let's do this way. How to change the default port of Apache to in Ubuntu. Yeah, I don't see this entry there. Listen entry. It says the same thing. etc nano Apache. Oh, is it changed? Ports.config. Okay. It's been ages. I'm not using Apache though. They have removed it from that main file. Okay, let's make him listen on 8080. It is running on a secure shell some reason. Let's do that. Restart the service. Systemctl. Now let's run that, and we should see 8080 somewhere. Yeah, it still seems somehow it's going on that IPv6. Probably if I disable this, then it should work. Let's disable that IPv6. So I'm launching my VMware workstation, going to the Ubuntu machine GUI. We can also do this from the command line, but I'm just gonna check it here. So this is the Ubuntu machine where we are messing up right now, and we are hacking him. This guy, he doesn't even know. Wide settings, network settings, IPv6, disable, apply, close. Right, let's close this, run in the background, save some memory, GPU, restart Apache CTL service. Now let's do it, netstat and add, and now it is still showing us at this one. But anyways, I was hoping that it will be running on a local, but does it have that option? If config. It is still showing me this. Maybe I'll have to restart that network adapter. If I do it from here, I'll lose the session. So let me do it from the GUI. We'll have to restart the network adapter, like disable and enable it, so it will take the effect, like it may be disabling the IPv6, and then we should be able to see. Hopefully I'm not losing my session there. Yeah, now if I do if config, I should see only IPv4, not IPv6, right? So 192.168.1.33. Now it is good. So So if you see this, see the difference. Oh yeah, I lost the session. I thought so. Oh, why? Okay, here also I lost the session. It's hung. Okay, let's do the session once again. This is what I was saying, I may lose the session. The service is also stopped, I believe now, the SSH service, or the IP might have changed. Okay. Yeah, in this case, Mac is super fast. That's why I don't like Windows. Yeah, let's change the IP. But I checked, it was showing me. Okay, it is now gone to 6. Strange, I did the IP config here and it showed me 33. As you can see, the previous results. It showed me 30. No, it showed me 6. I didn't pay attention to it. 1.6. Right. Yes. Permission denied. Okay. My Windows don't have that public key. So, no, the private key. So it may not work, right? So I need to do this, remove that. SSH hyphen. What was that? I'm super sleepy. CD DC SSH nano SSH config. We need to remove that. We need to do it with root. Okay, we need to enable the password, but are we going to do that in is it required in the further sessions? Yeah, we'll enable it again. See that lag? Yes. Okay, now this is dead here. It doesn't want to come back again because it's still trying to connect using the old IP. Why it didn't pick up my password? Okay, memory, I need to give some more memory to him. not getting killed. Let's close this. I wanted to keep that terminal, but anyways, it's gonna be fine. What happened to this one? Alright, so we are back into the business. Just because of that web application, the port and the IPv6, we have to mess up with so many things. Yeah. So now let's jump back to the exercise. Let's complete this document as soon as possible. We got the web application running, right? So it is running on port 8080. We have changed the port number, and now we also did nmap, as you can see, nmap -sv on 6, and we know that the port number is 80 for the web application, or yeah, right? So 8080, right? Why what is wrong with this one? What is pressed here? Is there anything wrong? See, if I do first click, it's printing all this crap here. Crazy. Hopefully it's not happening now. Okay, so let's assume the scenario can be okay. Fine, we know that, we did that. SSH supports the local port forwarding functionality, and hence the web application can be accessed in Kali machine using the local port forwarding command. So for some reason we know that it doesn't work on Kali Linux. If we do localhost, and we cannot launch that web page, assume that. We might have to do it. Not just assume, but let's try it. Okay, which machine is this? No, not this. Yeah, I want this. So let's go to the browser of Kali, and we're not gonna find that 127.0.0.180, right? Nothing is there in it, but the same thing is there in Ubuntu. The web application is running on Ubuntu. Right, the Apache is running here. So if I do that command here, in netstat TLP, okay, we still don't see this. Anyways, that's okay. We'll figure that out later. So it runs here. We need to move this session to this one, right? To Kali locally. That is the exercise, right? So let's run that command here. Not here, in Kali, SSH-L 8080 0.1 8080, right? Then the Kali IP address user, 01 at 192.168.1.6, right? And let's run this. Are you sure? Yes. Fine, take the password. We know that. We took it from Hydra. Now the local port forwarding key based. Now let's go to the Kali browser and find out. Okay, something is happening. It's still thinking. Here we are going to show a scenario where the initial access is taken through reverse shell and there is a key based authentication enabled on the remote server. We will add the public key of the Kali user to authorize key file inside the Ubuntu machine and perform local port forwarding using SSH key based authentication. Okay, but it is still loading. It's not yet forwarded the session. SSH-L 8080.127. What does it say? Is it 6? Yeah, 6. It says welcome. Yeah, I see this. SSH-L 8080. Oh, I made a mistake here. It's the wrong IP address, not the correct one. 172. There is no such IP. Okay, exit. My bad. Come on. 127. Right. Okay, now let's go back. There you go. So the port forwarding was done and we can now launch the Apache website locally inside the Kali machine, right? Without having the Apache installed on Kali. So you might find this here. It is not active here. It is disabled on my Kali, but I still have an Apache web server running here, which is coming from Ubuntu. Right. So local port forwarding key based authentication. So we'll go back to Ubuntu, enable the password thing, the SSH thing. And then we'll do that again. We might have to create the key again, I believe. This restrict the password thing. Right, so probably we might have to recreate the keys as well. Okay, now let's do that thing here. Not here, except enter 123, enter 123. That's it, right? What is that? Yeah, I'm just trying to find out whether it is capital or lowercase. Okay. Fine, this is done. Now we are back to the scenario where we have only the password based authentication, the key based authentication with the key passphrase to access the private key, right? Now we're gonna use the scenario is the local port forwarding. We already tried with the why did I close that? I don't know. So the scenario is that here we are going to show a scenario where the initial access is taken through reverse shell, and then there is a key based authentication enabled on the remote server. We will add a public key of the Kali user to authorize key file inside the Ubuntu machine and perform local port forwarding using SSH key base. So we're gonna create a authorized key, the private key here on Kali, and move that into the Ubuntu. And from there we're gonna do that. Right here we are going to show a scenario where initial access is taken through reverse shell, and then there is a key based authentication on a remote server. We will add a public key of Kali user to authorize key file. Okay, what did I do? I did a private key. Remove that. Public key cp id pub to, right? We did that Ubuntu machine and perform the local port forwarding. We will add a public key of Kali user to authorize keys. Okay. cd will this have Kali01 ssh cat authorize keys. This is from Ubuntu. I need to generate a new one here. Remove this. I don't know. Are we going to remove it? Here we are generating the SSH key locally. Okay, we're gonna come to that stage, but yeah, first we need to create a reverse shell. Okay, let's do that. Ref shell. Reverse shell generator. So we're gonna put the IP of Ubuntu or Kali 443.44334. Let's do that. Let's do 443 secure. It's 2:30 a.m. Baapre. Linux. Which one it is? pwn concat. Why concat? I don't know. Copy this into Ubuntu. The command copied from the above is used in the Ubuntu machine. Let's do bash -i and then enter here. Bash connection refused. A reverse shell is obtained on port 443. RL wrap. Now we need to do this first. Why it directly jumped into that reverse shell thing? I don't know. We need to run the RL wrap on Kali, right? Like netcat session here. LENP 443. Right, and now we are listening here and we're gonna enter, and then what has happened? Okay, what has happened here? Something has happened, but Apache is running here. Why it is still showing me I don't know, the IPv6? Probably because IPv6 is also enabled on. Okay, we already got a reverse shell here, right? And here we are generating the SSH key locally in the Kali machine. Since we already have an initial access, so we copy the public key of the root user of Kali to authorize key file in the Ubuntu system. Okay, how do we do that? How do we do that? Where is the public key? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, both are same, so we just copied this into the authorized key file, and updog hyphen p80. Okay. Let me do this here. Okay, I'm supposed to run the updog inside that folder itself, not here. So my bad. But I don't have updog into the main PC installed. It doesn't allow me to do it without doing the virtual environment. So how do I do it? See, pip install updog. It says that to install Python package system-wide, try apt install Python 3-xyz. The xyz is the package name that you know. I don't want to do that. But to and then otherwise it says py3 virtual environment, and then do the virtual environment and do that. If you believe this is a mistake, it's not a mistake. Pipx install updog. Oh, it says note the root local bin is not in your path environment variable. These okay. So updog is globally installed and it's running now. So we now do what wget on this one, right, on Ubuntu machine. What happened to this one now? Oh, it's connected to the ref shell. Okay. The public key authentication thing is enabled here, so let's do it here. Updog wget. We're gonna save this where? right? So it's gonna come here, wget 192.168.1.2 8001. Oh, what was that? 801. Dog is, oh man, Minecraft. I don't want to launch Minecraft. Okay, so 801, right? 801. Authorize underscore keys, right? So the key got copied here. So this authorized key is from Kali, C root. Now once the authorized key is copied, now we can use the private key of the root user inside Kali machine. Once the authorized key file is copied, now we can use the private key of a root user inside Kali machine to perform local port forwarding and access the web application running at port 8080. Here we are forwarding the application port to 777 in the Kali machine. And let's go to Kali machine now. We're done with the updock. Updock can be cancelled. SSH -I ID underscore the private key L 7777 at 127.0.0.0.1 Upu 0.1.6. Okay, we are logged in, and now we go to the browser, and let's see at 7777. There you go. It is working. Okay. So conclusion is that SSH is a vital utility for system administrator and security expert. Mastering different technique and following the best practice ensures a secure and efficient administration. By employing Kali Linux access to Ubuntu machine, we have demonstrated the flexibility of SSH like InfoSec researcher and security. So again, guys, so this was the document which we followed, and it is available. You can Google it, hacking articles by Raj sir.